Hi, and welcome back to Shine Total Wellness. Today, we are talking about estrogen dominance. It is something that is so incredibly common in the Western world today. And I want to start by asking a couple simple questions. Do you have any of the following symptoms? You have heavy periods, meaning you go through a pad or tampon in 1 to 2 hours or less for at least one day of your cycle. You bleed for longer than 4 days. You have painful cramping during your periods. You get headaches before or during your periods or headaches around ovulation. You have mood swings before your period. You bloat or gain weight before or during your period. You have strong food cravings before or during your period. You have a history of fibroids or ovarian cysts, or you have or suspect that you have endometriosis. These are just some of the really common symptoms of having excessive levels of estrogen in your body. It's also called estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance is incredibly common in Western countries. You probably know a lot of women who have these same painful, frustrating, and annoying symptoms as you. But just because it's common does not mean that it's normal. And it certainly doesn't mean that this is something that you should have to deal with on a monthly basis or more. So, why are so many of us estrogen dominant? There are a few key factors behind estrogen dominance. And before we even get into talking about estrogen dominance, I want you to know some facts up front about estrogen. So, estrogen is a main female sex hormone, and there are actually three forms of estrogen. Estradiol is the form of estrogen that's most abundant in women who are premenopausal. So, that's the one that we're really dealing with when we're talking about estrogen dominance. Now, estriol is the main form of estrogen found in pregnant women, and estrone is the main form of estrogen found in postmenopausal women. Estrogen is produced in the ovaries and in fat cells. So, yes, that means that men can have high levels of estrogen too. And in fact, high levels of estrogen are observed in men who are overweight and obese. And of course, that also means that women with higher levels of body fat will produce more estrogen. Now, your body has two main pathways for excreting or getting rid of excess estrogen, and those are the liver and the gut. So, thinking about this, it does make sense that one factor behind estrogen dominance that we're seeing in America is the higher levels of body fat that we've been observing for the last few decades. Now, weight and specifically body fat is definitely a factor that we need to address if that's relevant. And it's something that I help women with on a daily basis. However, I see plenty of women who have estrogen dominant symptoms who are nowhere near overweight or overfat. So this is a factor that may or may not pertain to you. Keeping in mind those detox pathways we mentioned, I see poor liver detoxification as a factor in estrogen dominance very commonly. Our liver is already typically overburdened for metabolizing all of the environmental toxins that we encounter every day. And then we add insult to injury with the standard American diet, which is usually more focused on foods that impair liver function versus foods that aid in liver detoxification. So, improving liver health really becomes crucial so that your body can actually work to metabolize that excess estrogen and it doesn't continue to build up in your body. And this has so much to do with improving your diet. So, we're talking about moving towards an anti inflammatory diet. We're talking about adding in key foods that we know support healthy liver function and getting rid of the foods that are known to impair estrogen metabolization in the liver. Hint, caffeine and alcohol are two of those big suspects. Along with poor liver health, the majority of women that I see with estrogen dominance also have suboptimal gut health. In fact, I'm going to just say that the majority of Americans have poor gut health. So, not only are we very often dealing with constipation, bloating, gas, and overall poor digestion, all of which can mean toxins and excess hormones are not being excreted and can build up. But we're also not eating or living in ways that support a healthy microbiome. Did you know that there is an entire subset of your microbiome called the estrobolome, whose job it is to specifically break down and metabolize excess estrogen? Well, whether you knew it or not, it's there trying to work for you. But again, with the standard American diet and the lack of diversity in our diets, especially when it comes to pre and probiotic foods, the estrogen is not able to do its job for many women. So if you're not pooping and if your gut microbiome is imbalanced, that estrogen will continue to build up. And these are things that certainly need to be addressed. There's so much more at play in estrogen dominance, but these are the biggies. And the last thing that I want to discuss today is endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that interact with and impact our body's endocrine system, meaning they can actually influence our hormone levels. So, the majority of endocrine disruptors that we're exposed to daily are actually close enough in molecular structure to be mistaken as estrogen in the body. So, we call these xenoestrogens. And xenoestrogens interfere with the production, metabolization, and even the cellular response of our natural estrogens. For example, certain xenoestrogens will bind to the estrogen receptors on our hormone cells, and they're used like estrogen. But all the while, we're still producing our own natural estrogens. So you can see how that can lead to excess estrogen and buildup very easily. Now, unfortunately, endocrine disruptors are all around us, and I'm willing to bet they're in your personal care and your makeup products. I'm willing to bet they're in your cookware and your food storage containers, that water bottle you're drinking from, your soaps, your laundry detergents. They're probably in your pantry in packaged foods. They're in the receipt that your cashier handed you at the store earlier, and they may even be in your pads and tampons. So it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of all of these things. Honestly, even for someone like me who does this as a job, some of these xenoestrogens are more or less unavoidable if you're part of modern society. Case in point, my 2-year-old daughter walked in the door from being out with her dad earlier and handed me a receipt from a toy that they bought. And there's those xenoestrogens on her hands and on my hands. So again, you don't have to get rid of everything and you don't have to go crazy. But what we do want to figure out is, where are the big sources of xenoestrogen coming from in your daily life? And how can we switch over to natural, non-toxic products? I really hope this video helped you cut through some of that white noise about estrogen dominance and give you a better sense of what you need to begin to optimize in your lifestyle to promote healthier and more balanced estrogen levels. Estrogen interacts with so many hormone pathways and body systems, and of course, it has a big impact on fertility. And I work with women every single day to normalize estrogen levels and to balance hormones overall. And I really do see pretty shockingly positive results in just a few months when we're targeting the root cause of the problem and we're working to correct that underlying imbalance. Now, if you could use the support of an experienced women's health professional, I do offer complimentary telephone consults, and I'll put some information on how to get in touch with me below. And as always, I'll see you next time for some more informative videos on women's health topics at Shine Total Wellness.